It's mikevsbeer. Welcome to our Breweries of America Tour, Episode 3 with Griffin Claw Brewing Company, right here in Birmingham, Michigan. This is a world-class, award-winning brewery right here in Metro Detroit. We'll be taking a tour of the facility. I can't wait to share this with all of you, so let's head on inside and see what they got. Welcome to Griffin Claw Brewing Company. We are in their tap room right now. This is Chris. He is the marketing director of Griffin Claw. He's going to be in charge of giving us the brewery tour. So, Chris, how long have you been working with Brewing? Griffin Claw?
Griffin Claw, 5 years. Yep,
5
been
years.
here for 5 years. Yep, the brewery's 10 years old this year. Awesome.
But how about we head over to the brewery tour and
let's do it.
Let's get going.
Cool, you
this
can follow
is
me.
Awesome.
I appreciate what you guys are doing too, because you know we work in the. I've worked in the brewery for so long. Every day I come in, I walk through that door, and it's I wouldn't say mundane, but it's so normal to me to be around all this stuff every day.
It's your office.
Yeah, some days I think about it and I walk in and I'm like, wow, it's kind of cool that we get to just work. I run down here into the brewery, see what's going on, you know, what's in the tanks, and every day. And it is kind of nice to unveil that curtain for your viewers so they can kind of see what goes on behind the scenes.
Sure.
Because I think it is actually pretty impressive, you know. But we can start over. Let's start grain to glass. That's where I like to start. I got so much cool stuff in here to tell you about too. Outside, there's two giant silos. You might have saw them when you pulled up. Mm-hmm. Those have our grain in there. That's two-row and Munich malt. Those come in through there's out on the other side of that wall, there's a mill. Okay. And that they go into there, they get milled in there, and then there's piping. You can see those two pipes that are sticking straight up. Yep. Vertical. Yeah. And those have lick a pulley system. And so what happens is after the grain gets cracked, it comes on over here into that grist case way up there. Yep. Where it drops down into the mash tun, which is the vessel on the left. Sure. And so in there, you know, typical mash tun usually has a false bottom, and you know we steep those grains, extract those sugars out of those cracked grains. And then move it into the boil kettle as sugar water, which is wort. The difference with our brew house that's a lot special, is this big giant blue thing in front. Yeah, it caught my eye immediately. Yep, so that's called a mash filter, and we were the first craft brewery in America to have one. It's a Belgian-German technology. We got it from Belgium, and it was shipped here. We have a matching one in Rochester Hills that's half the size. The point is, this thing is amazing because it makes our efficiency so much better. Mm-hmm. So we basically press our mash through this filter. So instead of like that false bottom where when you're done steeping the grains, it's just there. Yep, and then you just kick it out the side, and it's kind of sopping wet a lot of times. Totally, yeah. With this, all of that mash and wort gets squeezed through all these filter plates, and inside each filter plate is a bladder and a filter screen. So all of the grain and all the mash gets pushed into this filter, and it gets evenly dispersed amongst every plate, and then it gets squeezed with pressure through there, and all of the wort comes out through that pipe, and it goes into the boil kettle from the filter, and then the grain all stays in here. Right. And when the wort comes out, it's almost crystal clear. So it's very clean. You lose nothing. I think our yield is like 97% on liquid to grain. So when the grain comes out, we open this up, it's hydraulic press. When we open all these up and all these filter plates come apart, then you scrape all the grain out, spray it down. The grain comes out down below. And we have bins that slide under there with a forklift. Yep. And it comes down and falls into those bins. And it's pretty dry at that point. Completely dry. Completely dry. It's like sawdust. We love it because we get a better, cleaner product. We have more control over it. Yep. We have less waste, and it's better for the environment because we're losing less liquid. Right. You know, we're using every drop of liquid and every grain of sugar we can get out of that. We're using, not wasting. Real quick, is this some sort of trade secret? Because I love that you're sharing this with us, but I don't want to publish it to the world. If you say, hey, this is Griffin Claw, we don't want to. No, we're public about it. It's great, you know, because it's good for people to know the sustainability aspect of it. Absolutely. So we try and promote that as much as possible. We have some other things I can get into about sustainability that we do. So here we are on the brew deck. That's the mash tun we were just talking about. It doesn't have that false bottom. Everything gets pushed through this mash filter. Then it comes into here, which is our boil kettle. This boil kettle is also very cool because we don't boil the wort. We don't boil the wort in the boil kettle. It actually goes through a calandria down below. which is a series of pipes. There's a real large pipe with a bunch of little pipes inside it. So the wort flows through these little pipes that's steam jacketed, and it boils in these pipes.
Right.
So we add in all the hops that we want to add in. It flows down below through a pipe, and then underneath, I'll show you that pipe later. So it goes through the bottom pipe and it comes back up. So it's constantly recirculating, throughout the boil process. And then you'll see it as it's boiling, it splashes down on this cone, and it just and it spreads out. And so you'll see it throughout the boil. It's just constantly recirculating and splashing down into the kettle again, and then recirculating back through that pipe, boiling constantly. It'll spray down right on top of that cone. It kind of shoots out of there.
Okay.
Yep.
Super cool.
Very cool. So that's a fun way. A good way to do hops. This is our whirlpool. Whirlpool's great. Centrifugal force. The wort comes into here after boiling, spins around real fast. We actually do a lot of hopping in the whirlpool.
Okay.
So, like our New Englands and things like that. When we want like a ton of aroma, and not as much bitterness out of the beer, it comes through here where it's not boiling. Add all the hops in there, and then we're gonna get just tons of juicy aromas, things like that. And it spins. A lot of that plat matter gets separated out.
Right.
And then it moves through the heat exchanger into the tank where we add yeast and let the yeast do the real work.
And the party starts.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
That's awesome. But the way you speak, it's clear that you are active in the brewing process. Not your title here is marketing director, but you've achieved that based on your experience in this shop.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we all wear a ton of hats. Like, or even our CFO, he leads a lot of the sustainability efforts, and he helps with sales, and our taproom managers do a million things. Our brewer, our cider maker helps our brewer, and our distiller, our brewer a lot of times will brew wash for the distillery. So it's everyone's doing tons of work. I'm the backup truck driver,
right? Well,
because I have my CDL from delivering beer back in the day.
That's like it's just a reflection of the culture. That Griffin Claw has here is no one's above doing something else. You're truly a team.
Yeah.
I'm only interacting with you, but I'm getting that feeling immediately based on your description here, and I think that's probably a big secret to the success you guys are having too.
Yeah, it's really true. I mean, everyone nothing's below anybody. Everybody's down to get down and dirty and get the job done.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, what's next?
So more sustainability stuff that's really cool. And we have 70 barrels, so you can only go through so much at the tap rooms. The good thing is we have a distillery up in Rochester Hills.
Yeah.
And so beer is distillery wash. So any beer can become spirits or sanitizer. Yeah. So if we go long on a beer, for a great example is Screamin' Pumpkin Ale, which is just finishing up its season. We usually make too much of that because it's hard to gauge what the market's going to want, and then everyone stops drinking it immediately at Halloween. They're like, we're done with it.
And they should do it right through Thanksgiving.
Yeah, true. And some people still do. Yeah, exactly. And some people still do, but you do lose, you do end up with a little bit of extra sometimes. So we distill it, put it in a barrel, and then that becomes Screamin' Pumpkin whiskey later on, like 5 years later. This is the back of our cellar. This is where our bigger tanks are. This hunk of pipes is called a centrifuge. It's essentially a filter that doesn't use a filter. When the beer is done fermenting and we're ready to put it in the bright tank, which are right back here, there's 2 here and a couple over there, where we clean up the beer. We get it real cold in the tank, and then we run it through this, and then it goes in the bright tank to be carbonated and ready for packaging. But this spins the beer super duper fast, real fast. I mean, it's loud. It's real loud. Centrifuge. And you can dial it into as fine of a material you want out of it as you want. But all those sediments and particles that you want out of it go out to the sides, and what you're left with is clear beer going back through. So again, we're not wasting anything, because the bottom of these fermenters with these cones ends up having a lot of yeast and a lot of hop sediment.
Sure.
That we don't want in the final product. So we move, from above that, but if any of that gets in here, this centrifuge separates it all out. It gets rid of those proteins, those hops, those yeast cells that we don't want. And so it does a really good job of clarifying that beer before it goes into the bright tank, where it then sets and we carbonate it and send it to packaging.
Fantastic. So you don't have inadvertent hazy beers. It's just you
can dial it right into where you want.
If it's going to be a clean beer, Pilsner or something, it's going to be clear.
Another one that's very cool is this right here. These two are not part of the centrifuge.
Uh-huh.
This is called, this is a CO2 recapturing device. When a beer is fermenting, we hook up this big barrel instead of, like, you heard some bubbling going on over there?
I did, yeah.
So that's the blow-off tube into a tank as it's fermenting away, the yeast eating that sugar, and it's bubbling up CO2 out and bubbling up back in the atmosphere. But the majority of our beers run through this machine. We capture that CO2 that would normally just go up into the atmosphere as waste.
Yeah, right.
Gets captured and brought over here, and it runs through this cleaning system. So it cleans the CO2 gas. It turns it into liquid CO2, and then it plumbs back into our network of CO2, and we use it for carbonating, pushing beer, packaging, even on tap, because our tap room, the main taps are connected to our grid of CO2. Since we're able to reclaim so much, especially when we're like really fermenting a lot of beers, like Norm's is in a lot of these tanks, 100 barrels, it creates a lot of CO2. And then when we're able to capture that and repurpose it, it's good for everybody. So if you go to our website on our sustainability page, there's a little dashboard.
Okay.
And it shows how much CO2 is live being saved right now. They do it as like a tree counter.
This is a priority for Griffin Claw.
Yeah.
Like sustainability, environmental awareness. It's just being not just a good business, but a good part of our society.
Yeah.
Like, it's really neat to see. I've noticed you changed gold cans.
Yes, all of our cans are gold now.
That's cool. It's a nice distinction.
Yeah.
Gold medal winning beers, right?
That's right. So, most beers that have gone in distribution came off of this canning line. They come out, so they go up this little elevator.
Yep.
Get carefully pushed off into this twist rinse. So they come down here, they flip upside down inside this metal compartment. They get sprayed with water to clear out any debris. And then they flip upside down to drain them. And then they come back through down here.
Right side up?
Right side up. They come down this line. We've made a lot of modifications to this because the worst thing for beer is oxygen.
Yep.
So everything we've done is to reduce oxygen dissolving into our beer. So this is added. So there's 8 CO2 purges on here. There's normally 4. So there's a 4-head wild goose canning machine. There's normally 4. So what happens is it fills with CO2, then it comes over here where it fills with beer, and then it goes to get steamed.
So you fill each can,
twice,
open-ended can, with just the gas,
just the CO2. Yep, just to purge
which displaces the oxygen.
Exactly.
It's heavier.
Yep.
Basic chemistry here. Then it comes over here. Then the liquid pushes the CO2 out. But
exactly.
Now you're guaranteed no traffic.
Yep. So that thing with the radioactive symbol is an X-ray machine. So that will X-ray every can of beer as it goes through for fill level. If it's too low of a fill, if something happened with the filler where it didn't get enough beer, it kicks it off automatically into a bucket.
This is just very, very cool to see. And this is something that most beer enthusiasts have no idea what's happening behind a world-class brewing operation like this one. And so this is very, very neat to share all of this.
Great, I'm glad I could show it to you.
Yeah, I was looking at your website and it said this was your 10-year anniversary, but I also saw that in Birmingham it started like in 2010, so there's a little bit of disconnection on the numbers.
Yep.
Can you explain that?
Definitely. So right down the street, like less than a quarter of a mile, is Big Rock Chop House, and that was a restaurant that Norm LePage owned, and he opened up a little brew pub in the downstairs. So we had a brewer come in, he was making all kinds of beers and serving them at the restaurant. And in 2010, he shipped off the beers to the World Beer Cup.
Yep.
Which is like, international beer judging competition. And he didn't even have names for them yet. It was an IPA and a double IPA, or an Imperial IPA. And he shipped them off. He didn't know what to call them, so he just, as a joke, he called it Norm's Raggedy Ass, and Bonnie's Raggedy Ass was the Imperial version. And the Norms took gold in IPA category, which made it the best IPA of the year, or in the world that year. And Bonnie's took silver. So now all of a sudden they had tons of people coming to the restaurant trying to fill anything they could bring. They wanted to fill with this beer that had won a World Beer Cup gold medal and silver medal. So, they couldn't keep up.
All sorts of growlers. They need to take that home.
People were like, can I buy a keg? And they're like, we're a brew pub, we weren't really ready for that. But they, sell it. So they just kept making more and more and more and trying to keep up. And then they were like, well, we should just open a full-fledged brewery. So down the street right here they built Griffin Claw, and it was finished in 2013. So Bonnie LePage and Mary Nicholson are the owners of Griffin Claw.
They have a special release today,
That's
like
right.
the Flying Buffalo. Why don't you tell us all about it?
Sure, yeah, Flying Buffalo, we've been making that for as long as I've been here and longer, maybe since the beginning. And it's our Imperial Stout. Aged in bourbon barrels is the original. So Flying Buffalo Bourbon Barrel Aged Imperial Stout, it's about 9 months aged in a bourbon barrel. Then we package it, and then we do different flavors every year.
Buffalo.
Yes, sir.
Right? This is the base. Oh my gosh, the aroma. I can pick it up from here.
Ooh, it's good this year.
The season is perfect for this. 12% ABV. It's an imperial stout. It's so full. The mouthfeel is so full-bodied.
That's what we are going for. I think this is the best year yet.
Absolutely fantastic. It's so nice. And you get the tones from that oak, the bourbon barrels themselves. Come shining through nicely.
Crazy decadent stuff next. So let's do churro.
Churro it is. Oh my gosh. Yeah. The cinnamon right off the bat and vanilla.
Wow. I couldn't get over the aroma and how it, like, I mean, it smells like a churro.
Yeah. When you use the word doughy goodness, and that's literally what it feels like. When you have like somewhat of a, I would call it a perfectly cooked yeast donut, when they're somewhat doughy on the inside, like not totally cooked. That's like perfect for me. You pick up on some of those tones in here.
Nice.
It is a doughy flavor.
Let's
Chocolate drizzle cannoli, right?
Correct. Yep.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Salute and It's stunning the variance of flavor here, one to another. Yeah, definitely chocolate tones.
Huge.
The Great White Buffalo.
Yep.
Yes.
So I chose this one last because it's got such big coffee flavor and vanilla. It just seems like it's got more going on. Might be a fun way to end after you've gone through the.
Okay. Yeah. Here we go. Cheers, salute, and what? I picked up the coffee like as soon as it hit my palate.
I roasted the coffee.
Whoa,
For this.
yeah, it smells freshly roasted. This is amazing. So you guys brew like massive volumes of this and then added flavors to create these three, or did you create all four of these independent?
So it's all brewed one big batch, well, a couple big batches of Flying Buffalo Imperial Stout. Then it's all put down into bourbon barrels.
Yeah.
So all the bourbon barrels are laid to rest and aged for 9 months.
Okay.
We put it back into tanks. We split it up based on the flavor, and then we add the ingredients in the tank or this new piece of equipment that we got this year.
Amazing.
So it's like a recirculating filter. Again, efficiency, waste, reducing waste. But the main thing is you're able to taste it continuously during the process. So once you hit the flavor that you want, you stop and put it back in the tank. And so that's how we added those ingredients to each different flavor and tank.
So we're going to wrap it up. Again, Chris, thank you so much for your time and generosity. The tour was absolutely fantastic. To all the viewers here, if you are in the Metro Detroit area, it is worth going out of your way, driving to either Rochester Hills or Birmingham. We're in the Birmingham location. Come to Griffin Claw. Check out this brewery and tap house. The free tours are tomorrow, is what the sign says. But luckily, we got a free tour today, and that's what we shared with you. This is really worthy of you going out of your way. Check them out, try them. It's solid beer, solid people, and you will walk away happy. We're out.
Thank you.
Our illustrious camera gal and producer. What you got there, Tanya? Pineapple hot butter. Fantastic.